Vacancy. The myth of snuff movies has produced an extraordinary range of cinema. Back in the 1970s, a guy called Alan Shackleton, who took a very bad exploitation movie called Slaughter and stuck something on the end of it and called it snuff. And it kind of invented this whole movie, snuff movies. Oh, people out there making snuff movies. Not true, but there we go. And so we've had things like Joel Schumacher's terrible 8mm. What an awful film that is. Or Mark Evans' My Little Lie, which is a very interesting film. Now along comes Vacancy. Story of Vacancy is bickering couple in a car break down on a deserted highway, right? There is a flickering sign on a motel. They go into the motel, and behind the counter is a guy with, weird glasses and funny twitchy manner and two little stuffed birds on the desk. Nobody else appears to be in the hotel. And from his office is coming the sound of shrieking. They decide to check in anyway, because clearly they haven't recently been to see a horror movie. They get into the honeymoon suite, they turn on the television, they find some videotapes, and they realise, 20 minutes after everybody else in the audience realised, that the room they're in is actually the set of a snuff movie, and they are top of the bill. So they run around, lots of stuff happens, they try and call the police. I mean, horror movie 101, right? You're in a motel, you're on the set of a snuff movie, don't try using the phone, you're not going to get through to the police, you're going to get through to the manager, who is the guy with the stuffed birds and the shrieking coming from the thing. I mean, it's just elementary, boys and girls. So, nothing we haven't seen before. It's literally like he went to IKEA. And incidentally, can I just say that every time I say IKEA now, I do feel the need to say Nightly. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's the best name going, and I'm just cross that I didn't come up with it. And he said, I'd like a pre-packaged, nuts and bolts, put tab A into slot B, /a movie, thank you very much, here it is. And for the first half, it's assembled with a certain degree of flair, and Kate Beckinsale and Luke Wilson get on with the job perfectly fine, and then it doesn't have any final act, and all the obvious ways of doing something interesting with the scenario completely fail, and the script just sort of dies on its feet. And even at 85 minutes long, it's a good third of its running length longer than it should be. But there's about 50 minutes of perfectly okay, decent nuts and bolts stuff, and I have to say I saw it pretty much back to back with Hostel 2, which is the new movie by Eli Roth. And although I am not for 1 minute buying into all this nonsense about torture porn, because it is just nonsense, it's just editors looking for something to fill up the pages, I have to tell you that Hostel 2 is indicative of an incredibly adolescent mind, and Eli Roth should be sent to bed with no supper until he's learned to behave himself and grow up a little bit. And at least Vacancy, outside of a couple of sort of leery, salacious sequences in the opening, doesn't have that. But it doesn't have a whole bunch else either, but there is 50 minutes of fairly well-assembled slasher stuff.